Hey everybody, it's Mark again, and we have another clock to work on today. It is the 19th of August 2025, and last week I went and helped out my friend work on some clocks. You should have seen those videos. They're scheduled prior to this video. Anyway, on the way to his house, before I even left, I got on Marketplace and I saw this cute little 1950s cuckoo clock for $25. And it had everything, pendulum, weights, mostly everything. And I posted it to my group, but nobody seemed interested in it. So when I found out where they were at, I asked them if they would meet me or if I could come to their house as I was going in that area. They were actually about 25 minutes away from my friend, but they met me just 4 miles away from my friend. And so anyway, let's get started. So kick back, relax, grab something to eat, grab something to drink, and let's learn things. Now this is the clock. It's missing the hands and it's missing some numbers, but it's a count wheel movement. Made in Germany. The bellows need repaired. Here's the top report. Here's the pendulum and pendulum stick. The pendulum is held in place by a screw which slides up and down the slot. Here's the back part for the clock that needs re-glued into the back of the clock. And here's the original weights. And of course I got the door also. So let's get started. You don't have the nuts, which sucks. But it would take a round hole hour hand and a square hole minute hand. And I disconnect the bird from the door. And I can normally do that with my fingernails, but this wire looks pretty tough. So I'm going to have to get out a pair of pliers to do that. The wire works, but it shouldn't be that tough. The original nighttime shut-off lever. The bellows are screwed in, so we're going to have to take the bellows out. We're going to have to disconnect the chain links, but we can't disconnect the chain links because they are stuck. The post is coming out unscrewed. Hopefully it's coming unscrewed. Hopefully it's not jacked up. Take the pendulum leader wire off. The pendulum leader wire should come off before you take the movement out, because the pendulum leader wire is supposed to be straight as an arrow. And taking the movement off, you could bend this. It came unscrewed. So now I'm going to take the bellows out off camera. There's a screw and a nail, and we'll get back to you. The low note bellow, which is this bellow right here, the hole for the screw is worn out. And so while I'm at it, this stuff right here does a really good job. It's a wood filler made by Staples. I've got other wood filler, and when it dries, you go to put something in, it just seems to crumble out. But this stuff does a really good job. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that hole in. I need to mix some of this stuff up. And I'm going to fill that hole in and allow it to be drying while I work on the other parts of the clock. It doesn't take a lot. I'm going to go ahead and fill the nail hole in also. And I'm going to go ahead and fill the high note bellow hole in also, along with the nail hole. Now I will make starter holes, that way I know that exactly where the bellows go. And with the older bellows, put my wood putty away. With the older bellows, this is not always the case. You have to think of it like a quail. A quail bellow is really short. It plays a really high-pitched sound. A high note bellow has got, it would be a little bit longer than the quail bellow. And then the low note bellow, because it plays a deeper sound, it would be even longer. But and I've got a video that explains how bellows are made. But this is a high note bellow, and you can see the plug is way down, that far. This is a low note bellow, and this is probably the plug right here. And so all of this is space, is hollowed out. Where with the high note bellow, because the plug is that far in, it only has this much space that's hollowed out. Newer bellows, they tend to put the plug for the high note bellow, and then they also tend to put another plug at the bottom. So you can't really tell unless you make them noise. But again, these bellows gonna have to be recovered. So now I got the bellows out. Wood is falling apart. I'll glue that back in. I can't take the chains out until I drop the movement, because the chains are all the way up in place. I could take the cuckoo chain out by tripping this, and unless it's in warning. If it's in warning, I can't do this. So I'd have to take it out of warning. And this the movement is extremely dirty. Anyway, I'm going to take the movement out, take the screws out of the movement so I can drop the movement so I can take the chain links off, and I'll get back. Now this picture is from the Carl Kochman's book. This is the movement right here. It's a regular one, takes 420 gram weights. Now the bird doesn't have articulated wings, but it's still a nice looking bird. And the tongue is broke off, but I need to take it off. And you can see that the bird post is not going back in. A lot of it has got to do with this thing. It's got a lot of oil on it, excessive oil. But to take these movements apart, you have to start, well, you don't have to, I guess, but I need to take the intermediate wheel off, which is held into place by a pin. And the washer is what keeps the hour pipe in place. Intermediate wheel, and then this is the clutch system. This won't come out because of this. There's a pin that goes through these wheels. The hammer, like I said, there's excessive oil on this thing. The hammer's got this spring right here. I'll take the hammer off. I'll try to take the hammer off. Low note lever. high note lever. There's a bunch of corrosion on this thing. And I need to take this wire out to take the count wheel off. And it'll be a lot easier to take this movement apart. So stand by. I got the wire off, but I also have to take this pin right here that holds this pinion gear on. Again, this needs to come off so it'll be a lot easier to take this movement apart and especially put it back together. Look at the filth that's on this. No wonder this clock won't run. Anyway, I got the count wheel off. I got the pinion gear off. The movement itself was made in the 50s. The Berge assembly is not removable. The Berge and crutch assembly. If this thing was made prior to the 50s, it would have a removable Berge and crutch assembly on it. But it doesn't. So now I'm going to set up my movement stand legs so I can take the nuts off. And hopefully when I take the nuts off, I can pull the movement apart and show y'all a picture. And by the way, this will come out now because I took the that wire that was holding this thing into place off. But I'm going to be able to show y'all a picture of if I can get this thing apart without messing it all up. So stand by. I was able to take the plate off and all the parts are still in place, but this is what it should look like. When the clock is done striking, this brass lever here goes into the cam on the second wheel. The third wheel with warning pin, which is right here, hits the end of the tab on this brass lever. I'm going to remove this. When the clock goes into warning, this lever right here, which is all part of the levers on the front, and by the way, this lever here is missing a wire because this wire here, I take that back. Forget what I said. This wire right here, which goes around the second wheel, has got a curve on it. And when the clock goes into warning, this is lifted up, and that way the third wheel warning pin hits that curve of that wire until this drops. And then the third wheel with warning pin can rotate. That wire that I'm talking about, hopefully none of this comes out, is part of this wire here. This wire here, which catches the one of the two pins on the minute pipe. When this is lifted up, it lifts that wire in the back that catches the third wheel with warning pin. When this drops, after this rotates, the wire in the back drops and allows the third wheel with warning pin to spin. So this clock has not been serviced in a very long time. There's oil and dirt and all kinds of crap on it. So keep that in mind when you go to set up the clock. If you don't set it up right, the clock won't run right. I normally don't take anything else off, but because this thing has not been serviced in a very long time, I want to take it all apart. And I forgot to mention, before you start taking things apart, you need to take plenty of pictures. That way you can figure out how to put it back together. Because like this right here that holds the bird post, you can actually put this in upside down. So make sure that you get plenty of pictures. That way you can put it back together correctly. So it'll function correctly. Now I got the bird post out of the way, I can remove this piece right here, which has got to do with, again, this wire here is what is lifted by the one of the two pins on this wheel here. This wire here, it's all part of it. This wire here is connected to this post. So when this lifts by one of the two pins, this wire is what stops the third wheel with warning pin until this drops. This is bent, so it goes over the second wheel shaft. And then it has this little tail that comes up. And that little tail has to be there, because if it's not there, the third wheel with warning pin could slip underneath this wire and things will get stuck. This movement also has this wire right here, which is a spring to help this lever go into the count wheel and to shut everything off. Now I got everything apart. I'm going to soak this in Dawn dish detergent water and scrub it around with a toothbrush before I put it in my ultrasonic cleaner. So I'll get back to you. I got the parts in the ultrasonic cleaner, 35 degrees Celsius. I put them in for 12 minutes. They could stay in there a little bit longer. There's no special coating on it. But I was wanting to work on the case, and I normally use Howard bead-in wax or Old English oil. I was in Columbia last week visiting my sister, and I picked this stuff up. And so I want to try this. It costs $6. So I don't know whether it's going to be good or not. Lift tab. There's a metal tab on this thing that you take off. But like I said, I don't know whether it's going to be good or not. I'm just going to squirt some on and then get out my paintbrush that I have used with all the other stuff. Anything will bring a clock back to life. Whether you use an Old English oil or Howard bead-in wax, anything's better than nothing at all. It's starting to look better already. And what I like about this and what I like about Old English oil is it's a liquid. You just pour it on, and you can actually pour it on and tilt your clock or item, and it will get into the hard to reach spots. But I'm going to continue cleaning this up off camera. And I normally don't take the face of the clock off, but somebody took this off and they put it on wrong. You see a big gap right here. So I'm going to take this off. Other people take it off. I don't normally take it off because I don't want to damage it, but in this case, it's not on right, so I'm going to take it off. And hopefully I can take it off without breaking something. There's nails that go into that base, but they didn't have the nails in correctly. And that's what it looks like after. And this is what it looked like before. So, made a big difference. The thing was extremely thirsty. I used quite a bit of oil because it soaked up a lot of it. I even did the inside, as you should. And this is from years of neglect. A knot hole had came out. And now if they would have oiled it, it would still be in there. And I think I have that knot hole, which I do. Pretty sure this is it. So we'll be putting that back in. Put some glue on, put the snot hole back in, which I just had it in, and let that dry. And I got one more for the bottom of the clock to do, this piece right here. And I use this rag over and over and over again. I never wash it because it contains all the oil and stuff I use to clean up cases. And that way, if I just got a little bitty spot, I just grab my rag and it's got enough oil on it to clean up the cases. But as you can see, I got that rag underneath this topper, and that way the rag soaks up the oil versus your table. And you always want to do the back part. Again, you're preserving the wood. You're making it look pretty, but you're preserving the wood. The wood has a natural oil in it. And a lot of the stains are made from the natural wood. For example, walnut. You could use walnut shells and wood to stain your wood. So anyway, you're putting oils back into the wood to preserve it. And that's why I don't suggest using aerosol cans. Even though I'm sure there are some good ones out there, I don't use them. And this stuff that I'm using, Parker and Bailey, they have other stuff. But Trusted Wood Care since 1879. Orange oil polish penetrates and replaces your wood's natural oils. Leaves you fresh orange scent. And here's the history behind it. Parker and Bailey's products originated when Mr. Bailey, a respected furniture maker, joined forces with Mr. Parker, a manufacturer of fine waxes and polishes. A small container of Parker's Perfect Polish was included with each furniture sale. Customers kept returning for more, which gave Parker the idea to join forces and package the products for everyone. So in 1879, Parker and Bailey began producing fine furniture care products in Maine. These basic nutrition formulas, tried and tested for over 100 years, have a dedicated following among furniture restorers and antique experts alike. It says it's not suitable for French polish surfaces. And that's because French polishing takes several hours to produce. I French polished my grandfather clock many years ago that I got over in England. It looks a lot better. And don't forget to do your pendulum bob and pendulum stick. I did the pendulum bob and the pendulum stick. And I also put some wood putty in here because the hole that the screw went into was jacked up. So I filled it in. Now the parts are out of the cleaner, and I'm taking my Dremel to some of the parts, such as the pallets. There was a groove on them, and I took my Dremel and straightened that out. The minute shaft, I took my Dremel and cleaned up the threads. I'm going to take toothpicks to all the holes, and I might take some mothers to this movement because it's pretty nasty. But, it's been neglected and it's old. The parts themselves came out pretty clean, but the plates are pretty nasty. But right now I need to take a break. Now I'm using Blue Magic myself. That's just a container I grabbed. My neighbor gave me this Dabit container. And it doesn't matter whether you're using Blue Magic or Mothers or Semi-Chrome. And that's what it looks like afterwards. That's what it looked like before. And that's what it looks like afterwards. I'm using a Dremel. Put some on the pad. And it's going to turn black, but you keep using the same. My friend, Robert Lindsay, uses Q-tips. And he'll use a Q-tip and it turns black, but he keeps rubbing and rubbing and rubbing. And eventually it's going to shine up. See, it's turning black. But you keep rubbing it, or in this case, use your Dremel, and it's going to shine up. That's black. But you keep using your Dremel, and eventually it's going to polish it up to a bright shine. Like so. And you saw how long that took me to do. A minute? Well, I'm going to finish doing the rest of it. And I'll have to put a little bit more of the Blue Magic or Mothers or Semi-Chrome, whatever, on your pad and then continue on. Now, I still have to take toothpicks to all the holes. And this took me 3 or 4, maybe 5 minutes to shine this up. And yeah, I didn't get all of it because there's a pin sticking out right there. And I would tear up my pad if I got anywhere close to it. My friend Robert, he'll sit here with Q-tips, shining these things up until everything is perfect. The only thing that sucks about using this rotary tool is all that hot air is coming out of these vents and you'll burn your hands. So you have to keep moving your hands around. I got one more plate to do. And also, afterwards, I got a lint-free cloth here that I'm wiping it off. It's getting the excess Blue Magic off. As you can see in the rag. But it looks a lot better than what it did. I should have used this plate because this plate doesn't have the pins to show y'all what I'm doing. I got the Blue Magic on this wheel, and when I turn my Dremel on, it's going to throw Blue Magic all over the place. So I'm just putting it on the plate. That way I don't get Blue Magic all over my table. Again, it's turning black, and that's fine. That's what you want because it's shining it up. You just keep on rubbing back and forth, and eventually you're going to see that high luster shine. Are you timing me? There's one pin right here that I need to watch out for. And if you think you need some more product, go ahead and put it on your pad. Again, I would rub it on the plate first before you turn your Dremel on. Rotary tool. I call it a Dremel, it's a rotary tool. Because it'll throw stuff all over the place. And then wipe it off with the cloth. Again, I still have to take toothpicks to all the holes, but I want to shine it up first and take the toothpick to the holes because there might be some Mother's Blue Magic in the holes, and so you want to clean up the holes afterwards. So how long did it take me? You can really see the German. You can see it. I can't see it because I'm blind. Made by Berger. GG Berger, Germany. So that's who made the clock. Hopefully you can see that. So now I know who made it. So now I have to do this side. Before, after. Big difference. And you can see where the count wheel was. I might put some Renaissance wax on this afterwards and let it dry. Renaissance wax helps prevent fingerprints from showing up. I had to make another trip upstairs. I should have just added a window unit upstairs to get my Renaissance wax. And I personally put it on and let it dry for 30 minutes or so before I wipe it off. There is one part on this movement that is damaged, but it doesn't, I don't think it matters. It has to do with this hole right here. The virgin crutch assembly goes in this hole. That hole isn't really necessary. So I'll put the wax on, and then I'll start working on the bellows while this is drying. It's called Renaissance wax. You can buy it off of eBay. That's where I bought mine. It says apply sparingly with soft cloth and buff gently. It dries hard instantly. I don't agree with that. Resist spillage, does not show finger marks. It helps prevent showing finger marks, but it depends on how clean your hands are. I'm going to have to wash my hands. But I'm going to let that stuff dry, and I'm going to start working on the bellows. And I've got videos on how to repair bellows, so I'm not going to show you repairing these bellows. I told you I wasn't going to show you anything about the bellows, but this piece of wood fell off. And it goes right here. But in order for you to put this piece of wood on right, you have to blow into the whistle box. And let's see if I can turn my camera around. You have to blow into the whistle box while you're putting this piece of wood on. And put it where you think it goes, and then blow into the whistle box to see if it's making the noise. Because if you don't have it on right, it's not going to make the noise. So now I need to get out some glue and put that on. Or if you put this on right now, it's going to be kind of hard to put the bellow where it needs to go. So I might put the bellow on and then take my chance of putting this piece of wood on after I got the bellow paper on. You could do the same thing. Instead of blowing into it, you squeeze the bellow up and down to make sure you got this piece of wood on right. I believe this is called a reed. I'm not for sure. One down. And you will notice that this eye-link, it's not horizontal. It is straight up and down. And the bellow lift wire that goes in it, you don't want to close these loops. They go in, when you put them in, they go in and they're designed to stay in that little loop right there. So don't close them. They put a lot of weights in these bellows. Normally they only have like one weight in it. This one's got 3. With one weight, it works. With 2 weights, it works. With 3 weights, it works. But like I said, they put a lot of weights in these bellows. And I don't have the original, I don't have the fancy paper. I have it available to me, but I don't have it. I don't have a printer with colored ink in it. So I'm just going to use Tyvek paper to keep these weights in place. And I actually took one weight out because I don't think you need all 3 weights. It's working just fine with the 2 weights. And for the people who have a problem with me using Tyvek paper to keep those weights in, I want to ask you a question. How many times have you had a guest come over to your house to look at clocks, and you took a clock off the wall, took the back off the door, just to say, look at my bellow and see how pretty it is? It doesn't happen unless you're a weirdo. Maybe there are some people out there, but most people are not going to come over to your house and you're going to take a clock off the wall just to show them the bellow and how pretty they are. It works, and that's the only thing I care about. And for people who have a problem with that, you don't have to watch my videos. I show people how to do stuff so they don't have to pay. In my area, it's $250 or more to repair a simple cuckoo clock. In other areas, it's $350 or $400 or more to repair a simple cuckoo clock. When you're talking musical cuckoo clocks, the price goes up. When you're talking antique cuckoo clock like this, the price goes up. So I'm showing people how to do stuff with as cheap as possible. So nobody is going to come over to your house and say, you know, Mark, I don't think that you have decorative paper on those bellows, so prove to me that you do. Nobody's going to do that. And if they do, they need to get the heck out of my house. I don't want people like that in my house. Why the Germans chose decorative paper on the bellows is beyond me. Nobody looks at the bellows. The only thing they care about is whether it cuckoos. I was just looking at a posting on Facebook today where somebody charged somebody $750 to come out to lubricate their grandfather clock movement. And it worked for a little bit, and then they had to call somebody else. Well, this person had to put 12 different bushings in this grandfather clock movement. You know, it is ridiculous what people do to screw people over. I am showing you
my 26 years experience. And I'm not an expert, all right? I'm just showing you what I've done to get my clocks up and running. And a lot of people love what I've done, and a lot of people will complain what I've done. My comment on that posting was, it is a shame that people do that, and that's exactly why grandfather clocks are so cheap. 30 years ago, that antique grandfather clock, the second one to the right, in 2000, so in 2000, 25 years ago, the thing was valued at $5,000 twice. Before I left England, I had to get appraised on it for insurance purposes. And when I got to my last duty station, Abilene, Texas, I had to get it appraised again. The guy that appraised it was reluctant to come out to my house. He's like, Mark, most grandfather clocks, English grandfather clocks, are not worth that much money. And I begged him and begged him. Finally, he came out, and his eyes got big. He was shocked. He appraised it at $5,000 also. The third clock, the from the left, that's an antique grandfather clock that me and my daughter went to Kentucky to pick up. I paid $140 for it. There was like 7 or 8 other people in line to view that clock. And the guy told me, he's like, well, there's 7 or 8 other people, or maybe it was 10, I don't remember, people ahead of you. So I'm like, give me a call if it doesn't work out. He gave me a call, and it's like, it's yours if you want it. I'm like, I'm driving that way. Grandfather clocks have gone down in price because there are a few clock repair people out there. This is a dying breed. If there were more clock folks out there to repair clocks, people wouldn't be charging so much money to repair them, or they wouldn't be able to buy their groceries and pay their bills, because there's very few clock folks around. You know, besides me, there's one other person in this area. You would have to drive on the average 2 hours to go see a clock repair person. People don't want to spend the money to have a grandfather clock or a cuckoo clock or any clock repaired if it was given to them. They'd rather give it away or throw it away or sell it for cheap. And that's why I create these videos. I'm saving clocks one clock at a time without me touching them, giving you all my knowledge. With, you know, a lot of people will say I don't have that much knowledge, but there's a lot of people that say I do. One last thing on grandfather clocks, then I'll shut up. The people, most of the people who have grandfather clocks in their house, who are willing to pay people a bunch of money to have them serviced, are wealthy people. It's a status thing. They want people to walk into their house and say, see, look what I have. If that is the case, for me, I have 15 grandfather clocks in my house, so I guess I'm a multimillionaire. If you watch my videos, it's not that hard for you to get them in beat. It's doing simple things. I've got videos out there on repairing grandfather clocks. So if you service them like you're supposed to, every 5 to 7 years or 10 years max, where you take the movement out, and if it's a weight-driven movement, you have to take the weights off, you got to take the pendulum off, you got to take the movement out, you got to put brush oil on the pivot holes, the pallets on the verge assembly, and put it back on. You could also take a vacuum cleaner, an air duster, or whatever, and blow the dust out. If you move the grandfather clocks, you must, if they're a weight-driven clock, you must take the weights off and take the pendulum off. Most clocks have a clutch-type system for the verge and crutch. The weight of the pendulum, if you move it, will throw it out of beat. The weights will come crashing through the glass doors or damage the pendulum. So you must do these things. I highly suggest you never move your clock. I don't care if your house is dirty around that grandfather clock. Once you get it up and running, just leave it alone until it's time to service it. Let's get back to working on this cuckoo clock now. Now I have to clarify one thing. Sorry, getting back on grandfather clocks. When I say most people who have grandfather clocks are wealthy people, that doesn't include people that collect clocks like myself. That doesn't include people who repair clocks for other people like family members. You know, my ex-wife, she does okay, her and her husband. They're not multimillionaires, but they have a grandfather clock at each house. So my son and his girlfriend, they have a grandfather clock at their house. It's because I gave it to them. So, and because I could service it for them. My children, when I die, they will have a grandfather clock at their house. So, again, but the people who, a majority of the people who have grandfather clocks at their house, it's a status symbol. If you buy a brand new grandfather clock, you typically pay somebody to deliver that clock and set it up for you. Or, I take that back. If you buy a brand new grandfather clock from a store, there's a lot of times there's people who have contracts with that store who will deliver that clock and set that clock and beat at that person's house. I know somebody who does that. So, but check out the price of brand new grandfather clocks. I would much rather have an antique grandfather clock than a brand new grandfather clock. But that's just me. And you can pick them up for cheap. Every grandfather clock I have in my house, this one here is the most expensive clock, and I got that as a present to myself for becoming debt-free. I paid $300 for it. 1830s grandfather clock, I paid $100 for it. 1911 grandfather clock, I paid $50 for it. My buddy got it for $25, and I told him to buy it because it was at a yard sale, and I gave him $50 for it. So he got it for $25, I gave him $50 for it. The antique grandfather clock that I have, that I got from England, I got it for a price of a shed. I traded a garden shed for that clock, and that was back when they were worth $5,000. That clock, I would be lucky to sell for $1,000 today. The price has gone down that much. This grandfather clock here, it's Oriental design. I paid less than $100 for it. I still got a reparative movement in it. I just got way too many clocks in my house. But I seen one on Marketplace for sale here a year ago or so for $1,000. This is not plush. This is like a tortoiseshell or something. I don't know what it is, but it sticks out beyond the case. It's a beautiful clock. I washed my hands. I wiped off the movements. I have a toothpick in my drill. And now I'm going to use my drill to remount the pivot holes. Work smarter, not harder. I said remount the pivot holes. That's not what I meant. Clean out the pivot holes. And you can see that's how black they are. So I'll flip the toothpick around in my drill and do that plate one more time. I forget which plate I was working on, so it don't matter. It's still dirty. I'm going to grab another toothpick. Toothpicks are cheap. And I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to keep doing that until I'm satisfied. And if you're careful, you put the toothpick in one of the holes. If you push on the drill, it'll wallow out. I just lost electricity. The toothpick. And it'll clean it as you're pushing it through the hole. But it could break, so you're going to need toothpicks, tweezers or something to poke the broken toothpick out of the hole. And for one plate, I went through 5 toothpicks. One more plate to go. And this is what I'm talking about. There it started off dirty, and then I kept pushing it through, and back here, it's clean. So use less toothpicks that way. So now I'm satisfied because I can put a toothpick in the hole, bring it out, and the toothpick is clean. So next step. You can separate your parts. This is all strike side parts over here. All time side parts over here. What I like doing myself is the most important part is this great hammer. It has to be barely touching one of the pins on the grate wheel. These are the 8-point star pins on this type of great wheel. And there's a tab right here on the hammer that has to barely be off of one of those great wheels tabs. And then once I got that in place, I'm going to put Rodico so this great wheel doesn't move. And I have to make another trip upstairs to get my Rodico. I was partway upstairs when I realized my Rodico was already downstairs. This stuff, it could be used over and over and over and over again. I've got stuff laying around here that's 20 years old. And all you're going to do is put the wheel where you want it and then just start shoving Rodico around that wheel, readjusting it as you put the Rodico in. And remember, you might need some Rodico at other places, so don't use all your Rodico. And you want to make sure that you're not in the way of the levers and stuff. So when I take this off, that wheel is in place for the most part. And I put this back on. I want to make sure that it's, again, where I want it. Because when you put the low note and the high note lever on, this is the low note lever. I'm going to bend it out of the way. It can, when the clock is done striking, the tap or the low note lever needs to be away from the tap or the hammer. Because if it's not, the low note's going to play, and then the hammer, and then the high note. So that's why what I'm doing is important for you to understand. This is the very next step that I like doing. So now I can take the rear plate off. That is where it needs to be. I could shove a little bit more Rodico to keep it in place. So the strike side great wheel is in place. This is the time side great wheel, and by the way, you want to check, make sure that the ratcheting system is working. So I'll go ahead and put it down. Put the time side second wheel down. And if you didn't polish the pivots, you might want to polish the pivots. These are the pivots, the very end. Put the escapement wheel down. And then it's time to be putting all these levers in place. Remember, this is the wheel, this is the wire that goes around the second wheel. Stuff's in my way. Rodico's in my way. Wheels are in my way. This is the wire that goes around the second wheel. This is what the warning pin, the third wheel warning pin hits when it goes in warning. This wire right here. When this is lifted up, the third wheel warning pin hits that hump like it is right now when it goes into warning. And so that has to be in place properly. I need to put this back on so I can use my legs. Anyway, I need to put the time side back on, time side wheels back on, and then I'll start working on the strike side wheels. I'm not going to put the Berger assembly on just yet. So the second wheel. the second wheel goes on, so this part right here, this groove, right now it should be in the 6 o'clock position. The very flat end of this cutout should be pointing straight down. And I have to put on my glasses, so stand by. So just like that, this lever, like I said, it goes over the second wheel. That's what that curve and that wire is for. That's in place. This here goes into that notch of the second wheel, just like so. And then the third wheel with warning pin goes on, and the warning pin should be, give me a second. My time side is falling apart. It wouldn't normally fall apart, but I'm trying to show y'all what I'm doing. It's starting to storm like crazy here, and I'm losing power. But the warning pin should be at about the 5 o'clock position, so maybe the 4 o'clock position. So when it's done striking, the warning pin is going to hit the end of this brass tab right here, just like so. And then the governor fan. And you check the governor fan to make sure it was in working order. I need to put the skating wheel back on. I'll just put the camera over here out of my way. Y'all can watch it if you want. Virgin crutch assembly. And then this pallet here. I need to put the hideout lever on also. It's a lot easier to do it this way than afterwards. So now all you're going to do is start putting the plates on, a little bit at a time, lifting the plates up to find out what needs to go down. And I messed up. I'm going to put the Virgin crutch assembly on last. I have to put this lever this goes onto the count wheel, and I need to look at my pictures real fast, so stand by. I had to look at my video because I didn't take pictures. I had to find out where the lever that goes into the count wheel, which hole it comes out of. It comes out of this hole right here. So now I got it coming out of the hole. So now my goal is to put the plates on. And I could use rubber bands, but I'm not going to. I'm going to actually use the nuts. If your pivots are extremely fine, rubber bands would be the key to go. I'm not tightening these nuts up. I'm just putting them on as I see the post clear. Putting a little bit of pressure down on the plates and figuring out which needs to go where. As I put the pressure down, so I can, your goal is to start all 4 of these nuts, and which I'm able to do. And now your goal is to put the pivots in the respected holes, and you might have to take the nuts off to do that. getting a pair of tweezers. They also make a tool that that you can use to push and pull pivots. You don't need that tool. You can use a pair of tweezers or basically anything. Don't forget what I said about the warning pen. I think the only thing that... Oh, there we go. And I have to put the governor pin on. And the birch assembly. And put all these levers back into place because they came out on me. And when you get everything in place, the nuts will fall, the plates will fall and be where they need to be. I want you to just verify everything, especially this hammer lever. I told you it was important. Get on my wrench, and all it takes is a 1/4 inch drive. And barely tighten up these nuts. Because I want to make sure that the wheels are in place. Wheels are in place, it's just that the it needs adjusted. And I think my Rodico might be on the way, or maybe this wheel is not snapped into place yet because the plate is not coming down. The great wheel is not exactly where it needs to be for the strike side. There we go. Now I'm going to take the Rodico out and pray to God that I got everything exactly where I need it. Now the Rodico could stick to the teeth, and you just use the Rodico to clean off the Rodico, basically. Okay, so if I did this right, the hammer's going to go, and then the high note lever will go, and then the low note lever will go. So, and then it will stop. And there it stopped. So let's do it again. High, low, sorry. High note. Come on, Mark. Hammer, the longer lever, which is a high note, and then the lower, the shorter lever, which is the low note, is going to play. High, hammer, high, low, stops. And the third wheel warning pin is hitting the end of this tab. But you have to do it slow because This wire here, I told you, pushes down on that lever. Right now I got it pushing up on that lever. It's lifting it up. So I got to adjust this wire so it pushes down on that lever. And again, you got to go slow because the bird post is not on. And if you watch my other videos, the spring for the bird post serves two functions. It brings the cuckoo bird back in, plus the bird post has a wire on it that this wire hits to make the bird come out. The bird post wire pushes on this wire from that cuckoo bird spring to make this lever go into the count wheel. So this wire is not quite bent exactly where it needs to be, so I need to bend it down and put it back where it needs to be over this wire, so it's putting pressure. You see that? It's putting pressure on that wire. So it's all functioning properly. So before I go any further, I'm going to oil the pivots, oil the pallets, and then I'll put the, tighten up the spring for the gong because it's not tight. I'll put the bird post on, and then I'll put the stuff for the front on. Had some Rodico there, but we're getting there. It's looking good. Now the weights are, like I said, supposed to be around 420 grams. As you can see, it's sitting there ticking away, nice and fine. These plates are 1.65, 1.7 millimeters thick. Thinner plates are lenient on bushing wear. And I could show you that this movement has bushing wear. And I'm not going to put bushings in this movement because it'll last several more years. How long it will last, God only knows. I'll give you an example. I gave each of my sisters that live in Missouri a cuckoo clock 5 years ago. And it's a regular 25 movement. They're both musical cuckoo clocks. Other than my oldest sister's clock having issues, and it had nothing to do with bushing wear because I didn't put no bushings in that clock. The clocks run. My sister in Columbia, her clock, it was running when I was there, and I gave it to her 5 years ago. So thinner plate movements are lenient on bushing wear. If this was an older movement, I wouldn't get away with a bushing wear. Where people mess up because they can't get their clock to run, it's got to do with this Berger assembly. It could be out of whack. And as you can see, it starts to tick that way. But that's where I tell people the wire and opening the put. I don't have the post on this thing yet, and that's something that I just realized. I told you the broken area, that's for that post. So I'm gonna probably have to use some super glue in there. Putting another bushing in there is not gonna help anything out. I'm probably gonna use super glue or that red Loctite to keep that post in place. See, because it's broken in two. But putting the wire on and opening the foot would tell me which way I need to bend this crutch assembly. This part right here is called the crutch assembly. The part that's in the inside the movement is called the Berger. The Berger has pallets that rock back and forth over the escapement wheel. And so people tell me I'm wrong
not all the time, but every so often, you got to put bushings in a clock. No, you don't. I'm going to show you that the bushings are worn out on this thing. Or maybe it was made that way. I don't know. If you look at the birch, it's going to go back and forth, the pivot. You see it? It's going back and forth, back and forth. It's worn out. If you look at this wheel, and not that wheel, but if you look at the escapement wheel, well, even the birch assembly still, it's worn out. I can't see over the camera, so I might have to look and then look back. The second wheel here, it goes back and forth. There's a little bit of play in that also. Let's go to the strike side. The second wheel, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You see that? The bushings, they're oblong. The third wheel, same way. It's got play in the bushings. The great wheel, it's got play in the bushings. But that's not going to stop this clock from working. Look at the second wheel on this side. It's not going to stop this clock from working. Same way with the third wheel. It will work. Because the plates are thin. Older movements, when you get 2 millimeters and above, that's when I would be concerned about putting bushings in. Because the plates are 1.65, 1.7, depending on, again, how you measure it. Because this thing has a birch assembly that you can't take out, I'm going to say that this movement was made in the late 40s, early 50s. The older movements where you could take the birch assembly out, they cast the plates and then they put screws with a bridge on it that you could take the birch assemblies out. These are stamp plates. Older movements, they didn't have permanent birch and crutch assemblies. They were stamp plates. They were cast plates, unless somebody could prove me otherwise. And because the great wheel with the pins versus great wheel with the what looks like a star wheel in between, I'm going to say it was made in the late 40s, but mainly because the thickness of the plates. 1950s, from all the movements that I have, they're 1.5 millimeters thick or less. For 30-hour movements. 8-day movements, something different. 8-day movements, they're going to be thicker. I got the count wheel on. It's just a natural habit for me to go ahead and file all the grooves to include the lead that goes into the count wheel. Make sure it's nice and straight across. Putting the bird posts on. Just like with your wheels where I say they have to have end shake going from rear plate to front plate or they won't work, your bird post needs to have a little bit of end shake also. If you were to tighten these down wrong, and let me go ahead and loosen it up to tighten them down wrong. I don't have the wire connected, but as you can see, it's hard for me to move this wire. And that's because it doesn't have any end shake. So make sure it has end shake. So now I can easily move this thing. Because now it has some end shake. Now I need to tighten this, put this wire on, and this movement just happens to have a hole that wire goes in, and
tighten it up that way. Not all movements have got that hole. And I gotta get this camera out of my way to do it, so stand by. And as always, with the bird on, if I tilt the movement down and bring the board forward, it goes back. So I know that when it's upright, it's gonna snap back. It's a little bit heavier wire, a little bit heavier bird than most typical birds. So tilting it allows the bird to come back. When it's straight up where it's supposed to be, it's going to snap back, and that's what I want. And you should be able to see where I put that wire in that hole, pulled it out, pulled it to where I can get the bird to snap back like that, and then twisted it a couple of times. And now the bird, like I said, the bird, this wire right here is what this wire, this trip wire, this wire that I'm pushing on is attached to the bird post. So the spring on the bird post acts as two functions again. A, it brings the bird back in the door, and B, it causes this wire to push on this trip wire, which is attached to the lever that goes into the count wheel. That way you know it's going to shut off. And I just realized something. This lever, this wire lever that goes into the count wheel, it's not bent right because as the count wheel rotates, it's pushing that lever to the left. So it needs to be adjusted better. You see it? Let me see if I can show it to you again. Now watch this. It's going to grab a hold of the next, it's going to get up on the next notch, but it's pushing that lever back, and then it snaps back where it needs to be. So I got to adjust that lever some more. And all I did was bring it just a hair up. You will notice that the bird is barely moving as it cuckoos. And I'm okay with that. If it was going back and forth, it's because this lever is bouncing up and down on the count wheel, and that's what causes the bird to go in and out as it's cuckooing. On this style clock, on a Schatz cuckoo clock, it was designed, the bird was designed to go in and out of the door as it cuckoos. Everything is looking great, other than my bridge wire here. I still got to put the post on, and so I'm going to put that post on, and I'm going to either use that red Loctite or some super glue, or maybe both, and I'm going to have to let it dry, so we'll get back. The Loctite and super glue, nothing was going to work. I end up putting a nut behind it, so now it's nice and tight. The nut, the threads stuck through just enough to go through that nut, so that will work. And I already looked at the wires, and everything was good on the wires. And I told you in other videos, if there were flat spots in this V-wire, it wouldn't be doing what it's doing now. It's sitting there, y'all can't see it, it's sitting there bouncing back and forth. If there were flat spots in that V-wire, it wouldn't do that. It would stop almost immediately. So everything is looking good. The only thing I got to do now is put this part on, which has got to do with the clutch system. This compression piece here fits on this piece of metal. Then the intermediate wheel, and then the hour pipe, and then a washer. And if you could see the hole like you can now, I could put a pin straight through there. That's too loose. So you have to put more pressure on this piece here by bending it. Because after you put the washer on, you should have to push down on the system in order to put the taper pin in. So now I'm going to have to push down on the system in order to put a tapered pen in, because you can't see the hole completely. Taper pen, pushing down on the system. Yeah. Again, I'm blind. Trying to do this with the camera in front of me sucks. But there we go. Now all I have to do is just cut that tapered pen off, the excess. I got to come up with a pair of hands also. I told you they were broke. And that looks like it's right on the money. It doesn't look like I'll have to adjust that wire at all. And I just got through ordering a bunch of hands from Time Savers. And so, determining the size of hand that you want to use. Well, in cuckoo clocks, the hour hand goes about in the middle of the numbers. The minute hand goes right up to the chapter ring. I think this is the set of hands I want to use. Like I said, the minute hand goes up to the chapter ring, and the hour hand goes about in the middle of the numbers. Whether this will fit on there, yeah, that'd be great. And whether this will fit on there, wow, I don't even have to do any filing. So, watch the bird. Right on the money, or pretty close. Pretty close to being on the money. I think I'm going to call that good. I'm going to take a break. When I come back, I'm going to put the movement in the case. I still got to put the trim on the case. I still got to put the numbers on the case. And I think the trim is going to cover all that up. Or at least most of it. And I got to pound the nails in because, like I said, I took this trim off because it wasn't on right in the first place. So I need to push these nails through so I could put the trim where I think it should go. As far as the name GG Berger, it's not in a Microlist database, and I've got folders on my computer where there's other movements that say GG Berger, such as this one. But my group expert, Valentin Weber, doesn't recognize them as a clockmaker. It could have been somebody who just sold clocks, like GK. GK did not make any clocks. They bought and sold clocks. So, as far as the history of GG Berger, I don't know. I'm on the NAWCC. There's somebody that was asking a question on a GG Berger cookie clock. This person here says, finally found him in Watchmakers and Clockmakers of the World, 21st Century Edition by Brian Looms. All it says, Berger, GG Company, circular 1900. And I told you already that this clock is nowhere near that age. But here's a cuckoo quail that says GG Berger on the movement, supposedly. I'm not going to be able to zoom in far enough, but this is the NAWCC page. But let's see if there's anything else coming from somebody. Here's not surprised that GG Berger is not always listed in the lexicon. There's no GG Berger in the 1904 or the 1907 and the 1925 German trademark address books either. Berger is a very common name. There appears to be no G. Berger making cookie clocks either in these sources. They're saying one possibility is at least quite common. An American importer had movement stamped with their name. Likely suspect is a Berger Clock and Novelty Company of New York City. Imported them in 1927. And again, this clock is nowhere near that age, in my personal opinion, late 1940s, early 1950s. And so And there's supposedly no maker of a Berger, GG Berger company. Now there is Joseph Berger, spelled totally different, Burgerjosef, who is the person who trademarked Regula. And so they did make clocks, but they also made movements. Totally different name, though. This person keeps saying that his mark's made in Germany. 99% of the quality cuckoo clocks out there, I can't say 99%, but a majority of the quality cuckoo clocks out there, the movements were made in Germany. It's just like I said, GK, they didn't make any cuckoo clocks. George Cool. They bought and sold cuckoo clocks. The original American cuckoo clock company, they made cuckoo clocks here in the United States. They were German people that came to the United States, started the American cuckoo clock company, all right? But they bought movements from Germany to put in their cases. And some might say made in Germany. It's all got to do with the British Act of 1955 or whatever, 18. Anyway, there's some acts out there that they have to be stamped with their country of origin. I don't know whether the United States required that or not. And you gotta love AI. AI overview. GG Berger brand is not directly associated with the traditional history of cuckoo clocks, which originated in the Black Forest region of Germany. Cuckoo clocks, as we know them today, are developed in the Black Forest, starting in the 17th century with the iconic cuckoo call appeared around 1670s. Franz and Anketterer is often credited with building the first authentic German cuckoo clock. GG Berger, on the other hand, is a modern brand that likely produces or sells cuckoo clocks as part of a broader range of a decorative item, rather than being a historical maker of Black Forest clocks. And again, they're not modern. This is almost antique cuckoo clock. Here I have the movement in place. I have the bird on. I have the high note bellow on. Testing the high note bellow by opening up the door, hitting the trip lever, and it's working. What I like about this clock is the wire that lifts the bird's tail is actually part of the bird. And so when you put the low note bellow in, as long as that wire is touching the low note bellow, it will lift the bird. And I also have to come up with a nut to hold the minute hand on. Now this particular movement, there's no decorative nut that goes on top, unless it's two nuts, unless it's broken off, but I don't think it is. I think it's this one right here, M4.07. I have a brass nut that I'm going to take the tap, and that's M407. And I'm going to tap this out, or at least try to. I think I'm going to have to drill a hole to start with that's slightly smaller than this tap. But I'm going to try to tap a piece of wood out first and screw that piece of wood on to see if I'm close. This tap and die set, I mentioned in another video I just recently bought, it doesn't have a gauge. This tap and die set, which is standard, that one's metric, this one's standard. It does have a gauge, but it's going to be for standard. I have one here that's standard that almost fits on there. So before I screw things up, I'm going to use my standard gauge and see if I can see whether it's standard or metric. The standard gauges did not fit, so I'm pretty sure it's metric. It took some doing, but I got a nut. How fancy do you want your nut is the next question. The main thing I care about is whether or not it works. The original nuts would have had a fancy knurled round edge, but I'm okay with this because it'll work. And I mentioned this in another video that came out before this video. You used to be able to buy Her hand nuts, an assortment through Time Savers. Time Savers no longer sells them. Her used the same type of system where you have to have a square minute hand. So you used to be able to buy an assortment of hand nuts through Time Savers, and you might have a package of 10 nuts, and one of those should or would work. You can't buy those through Time Savers anymore. That's what sucks about cuckoo clocks, is there's certain things that you used to be able to buy that you can't buy anymore. So you have to get creative. And that's why I bought this $58 metric tap and die set. There also used to be a company called Estler Rose. That's where I used to buy all my parts when I came back to the States. But Estler Rose doesn't exist anymore. This package does. So I think I will have some hands that I'll be able to put on. So here the clock is. It's up and running. The numbers that I put on, they're slightly bigger than the original numbers. And I might have to put a bushing in on the strike side. But that's going to be enough for this video. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Please leave me some comments. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe not only to my channel, but to all the other channels mentioned. A lot of clock makers, after they get through servicing a clock, they'll put a heavier weight on for a day or two just to make the oil get where it needs to be. This thing has not been serviced in a very long time, so it might need that trick. May God bless each and every one of you. And it also might have a burr on one of the bushings on the strike side. Never came across that before. I should have took a smooth cutting broach to the strike side. I did to the time side. I did to the strike side. But we all live and learn. I started this clock today. I finished it today. I got it to this point today. And there was a lot that I had to do to this clock to get it to this point. But again, for $25, for late 1940s, early 1950s cuckoo clock, it's not bad.